Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is undoubtedly a weird and creepy story. Though it is considered to be a children's tale, some things just do not match up there. In essence, this story is a surreal nightmare in which a group of children is picked off one by one and punished in quite exquisite ways. But why is it so? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory seems like a classic story at first, but when you start reading the novel or watching the movie, you notice some really strange stuff going on right from the beginning. Charlie's house, his family, his city, the factory itself, Willy Wonka is really weird, Oompa Loompas are also weird. All of this is absolutely absurd. And one reason why this book was made to be this way lies in its structure. We have our main protagonist, Charlie, a boy from a poor family who has a heart of gold and who has only pure intentions. He is humble, he is nice, and suddenly he finds a golden ticket which allows him to go from his real world to an unknown and strange space, which is the chocolate factory of Willy Wonka. As we follow Charlie's journey and visit the factory, we do not really expect a simple and traditional, realistic children's story anymore. It is very obvious for us that everything that happens in the book is extremely unrealistic. The author of this tale, Roald Dahl, had a unique approach in his children's stories, which wasn't just about showcasing the goodness in people, which was a traditional way of the children's literature. Instead, he highlighted the darker side of people and the world, preparing his young readers for the life's harsh realities. And just like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's the children in his tales who display negative traits like greed, foolishness, or selfishness. While we are following Charlie's journey, we can clearly see that this simple excursion around the factory is not so simple, since the story is posing a specific challenge for the people who enter the factory, and it plays the role of the arena for the competition where kids are secretly being tested and evaluated. And the main challenge which the kids have to go through is the temptation in the form of food or chocolate and candies. If you have ever read any of the folk tales or myths, you may notice that the biggest temptation in many stories is the food. For example, when Hades stole Persephone and took her to the underworld, food, or the pomegranate seeds, is the thing that bounds her to the new world of the underworld. The same happens in the Hansel and Gretel tale, when the kids encounter a gingerbread house in the woods, and when they bite off the gingerbread pieces, eating this food and tasting it bonds them to the world that they are in. And in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, food has a specific purpose. Chocolate for kids is a big temptation anyway, but the only person who resists the urge of tasting any sorts of luring sweets made by Willy Wonka is Charlie, the hungry and poor kid, which only makes his resistance more significant. When Charlie enters the factory, he knows that there is the prize that he needs to win, but he doesn't actively try to win it. His good intentions and kind nature are what eventually earn him the prize in the end. And that's how Wonka decides that Charlie is the one to inherit the factory by a process of elimination. He wanted someone who was kind, honest, and able to handle the challenges of running the factory and resisting the temptation of eating the chocolate and destroying the business. And that's why Charlie was the perfect choice. After each trial, the kids who fail to successfully pass the test are being punished. From the writing perspective, this idea is also quite clear. By creating the tale, Roald Dahl wanted to warn his audience from behaving in a specific way. We call those stories cautionary tales, where the badly behaving characters have to face the consequences of their actions, and the punishment they go through is supposed to make them learn their lesson and grow. In Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the punishments of the kids are especially cruel. So what does the book try to teach you? Do not indulge in eating, do not be aggressive or rude, respect your parents, lower your expectations in life, do not show off too much. And Willy Wonka decided to teach his visitors these profound lessons with their very cruel intentions. In Dahl's stories, children face the potential death all of the time. Willy Wonka's factory is filled with ways for naughty kids to meet their end. And it is quite interesting that the factory itself is located underneath the earth, and it is described as incredibly empty. The entrance is closed for the visitors, no one goes in or out, which makes this place seem to be haunted. Willy Wonka himself seems to be quite calm when children fall into his traps, and it is quite interesting that each eliminated kid is an embodiment of one of the 7 deadly sins, which also adds the depth to the story. The challenges that kids have to go through vary. Augustus Gloop has to face the danger of drowning in the chocolate river after he fell into it.
That pipe It just so happens to lead directly to the room where I make the most delicious kind of strawberry-flavored chocolate-coated fudge.
Veruca Salt isn't in danger of being burned.
Where are they taking her? Where all the other bad lads go, to the garbage chute.
Violet Beauregarde of being squeezed up to death.
The juicing room? What are they gonna do to her there?
They're gonna squeeze her. Like a little pimple.
And Mike TV of suffering perhaps the most gruesome death possible.
The taffy puller.
Taffy puller?
Hey, that was my idea.
In Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the characters and the ideas they represent form the heart of the story. The very thing that makes the characters so distinct is their names. Charlie is a bucket, Violet is purple, and those names are definitely not random. Let's start with Augustus Gloop. The name Augustus Gloop is a clever play on words reflecting the character's insatiable appetite and sticky, gluttonous nature. The term gloop is defined as thick, sticky substance which perfectly captures Augustus' tendency to devour everything in sight. The river that he falls into definitely reminiscent of the famous Styx River, which we can read about in Greek myths. And we know that the factory is located underneath the earth. It's just some food for thoughts. Veruca Salt's name is a clever hint at her spoiled and demanding nature. Just as the word is a persistent and bothersome bump on the skin, Veruca is a constant source of irritation and frustration. Her parents' indulgence only fuels her sense of entitlement, which makes her believe that she deserves everything she desires, no matter the cost. Just as the word is rough and unpleasant to touch, Veruca's character is absolutely disagreeable. In this story, this girl speaks quite a bit, and her character is shaped by the way she speaks. When she opens her mouth, she usually shouts, screams, or cries, which indicates, on the one hand, her emotional state, and of course her demanding personality. Veruca's speech is quite repetitive. She usually starts her lines with the phrase, "I want."
I want to go in.
It's 9:59, sweetheart.
Make time go faster. I want a squirrel. Get me one of those squirrels. I want one. Daddy, I want another pony.
After Veruca, we meet Violet Beauregarde, a girl who spends her days chewing gum. The name Violet indirectly foreshadows her unpleasant future, since in the story she inflates into a big blueberry, and her surname has French origins and literally translates to beautiful gaze. The fourth character introduced to us is Mike TV. He is aggressive and obsessive kid who has more than 18 toy pistols hanging from his belt. With those characters, Roald Dahl shares his ideas about the overindulgence. Overindulgence is the reason of why the kids have to suffer and being punished. Augustus Gloop eats too much, Veruca Salt gets too many material goods, Violet Beauregarde chews too much gum, and Mike TV watches too much television. And of course, they're also selfish, rude, and disobedient, but the crime that Wonka and his Oompa Loompas workers focus on is always that they got too much of something, and they simply cannot stop indulging. Dahl creates a great contrast between those sinful kids and vulnerable Charlie Bucket. We already know how harsh his life was long before he steps into the factory. Charlie is not just the eyes and ears of the novel. The name Charlie sets him apart in many ways. Firstly, the name Charlie starts with the same sound as the word chocolate, which creates this interesting alliteration and adds fun to the tale. And secondly, the surname Bucket indicates that his family is very poor and that he comes from the humble origins. When we discuss the moral compass of the tale, Charlie stands out. He emerges as the epitome of goodness and compassion. When Dahl describes his appearance, he usually uses the words like little, skinny. Charlie's actions speak volumes about his politeness and kindness. For example, he desires to share his sole birthday gift, which was a chocolate bar from Willy Wonka's factory, among all of his family members.
It's my candy bar, and I'll do what I want with it.
He also refuses extra meager portion of food offered by his family. It is due to these positive qualities that Charlie becomes Willy Wonka's assistant and heir. But most importantly, Charlie was the one who learned how to extract more pleasure from one small piece of chocolate than most children would have from mounds of candies. And because Charlie doesn't have a chance to enjoy his experience very often, he knows how to be grateful for what he has. But ultimately, the most memorable character in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is not Charlie, but Willy Wonka. In the story, he plays the role of a trickster who sets trials to kids and tries to find out who is the most valuable out of them. His name tells us that he is, in fact, a winner, and he won this lottery of life, which is why he is so successful in the novel. Besides that, Willy Wonka was the reason of why so many people love this tale. He is the one who is responsible for the edge of the story, Interestingly enough, many of the specific themes which were employed by Dahl are familiar to us from adult horror fiction. Franco plays the role of this hidden genius who can do whatever he wants and never get punished for what he does. And all of this are the reasons of why this tale is so great. Though for someone it may seem to be quite disturbing, I think this book is a great example of how to incorporate these folk and mythical elements into the tale and create something unique and actually provide good benefit for people around you. Kids love scary tales, and Roald Dahl was the one who perfectly captured this essence of fear and disturbing atmosphere and brought it up to the children's fiction. And this was what made the story so great. I hope you liked this video, I hope you learned something new. Thank you for watching, and bye!